either haven't invested in their first property yet, or frankly are maybe one property in and they're still not feeling too sure of themselves. And so some of this is going to be very review for a lot of folks, but I think it's important. For those of you guys that are stuck in that paralysis phase where you just haven't pulled the trigger yet, there are some things that you have to know up front before you even start analyzing deals, because there's no such thing as an investor that is the same as another investor. Your goals are going to be different. How you get there is going to be different. How long you have to get there, or how long you want to get there. What kind of investor you are. All of that is going to really inform how you go about analyzing your deals, which is why we're going to try and focus on a deal where we look at it as a flip, or buy and hold, or as a BRRRR, etc. Because there's so many different ways to make money in real estate as an investor. You just got to know which one you are, or which two you are, and you really have to understand how involved do you want to be. Do you want to be the person getting your hands dirty during the reno, or do you want to pay someone to do that? You have to educate yourself if you're going to pay somebody so you're not getting ripped off and you understand what's required. There's so much involved with that, and if you haven't had those thoughts up front before you start analyzing these deals, you're probably not going to analyze them correctly, and that's when you get into trouble, when you haven't thought through those things up front. So we're going to sort of touch on all of these as we go, but especially for the folks that haven't done the first deal yet, I would pay attention to this, because you have to figure this out to understand what kind of properties you want to buy and what your specific buying criteria is going to be. Dee and I have a somewhat similar way of analyzing properties, but we have small differences, and so an acceptable threshold for a metric like cash-on-cash return for me is going to be different than it is for Dee, and it's going to be different for Show or Scott or whoever's investing. So you have to understand, how did you get that number and why? And so with that, Dee, I'll flip back over to you.
All right, so we're going to go over just these three different types of deals, and there's plenty else that we can go over. We can go over portfolios and that kind of stuff, but it's really difficult to go over complex deals in a group like this. So we're going to stick to probably flips, BRRRRs, and just normal buy holds. And in terms of metrics, what we look for in a flip is pretty simple. We're looking to make cash or profit at the end. All right, so we're going to calculate that out if you guys have a flip that you want to see. For a BRRRR, I think everybody here should know what a BRRRR is by now. And what we're looking for at the end of that is the cash flow, and then what you can refi out. So if you buy a building and you renovate it, and the bank gives you some money out, can you get out without having any money left in the deal? Do you leave a little bit of money left in the deal? And then what is the cash flow at the end of that? And with the buy hold, this is what Colin and I look for. Other people may look for things like appreciation. Just Colin and I just happen not to be appreciation people. We'll look for cash flow and the cash on cash return. And he and I have slightly different thresholds for what is a good deal on cash return. And I suggest that you guys should decide what your threshold is as well, but that'll be the difference between investors. Some people will have, I know there's a guy who just bought a building with a 6% cash on cash return. My number is usually around 20. Colin's probably around 20 as well. So this is what we're going to be looking for when you guys bring the deal, or we can choose an example deal that's on MLS and we'll analyze that. So we had a deal over there, right?
Are you guys going to pull comps at all at the front there, or no?
We'll gather from you, or we'll go look online.
Yeah.
So is it a flip? Is it a buy hold? What is it? Or what do you think it would be?
This is a very standard 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch with a 2-car garage on a couple of acres. It's not a particularly difficult property in any way, shape, or but that's cool. So where am I starting?
All right, so it's a 3-bed, 2-bath.
3-bed, 1-bath.
3-bed, 3-1. How much is it, or what's the asking price?
We're into it for $260, including about 11 grand for reno money. So that's the acquisition price, the closing cost on buying it. We didn't have any points up front with our private lender, and we don't have any payments throughout this turnaround process. She is charging us 12.5%.
You're getting way too far ahead.
Yeah.
What was the acquisition price?
It's like 260.
260. All right.
I'm happy to share the address if you want it.
Yeah, let's look at the place. What is it?
It's 1A, which sounds weird, but it's 1A Blueberry Road in Ossipee. I'm just going to pull it up on my tax card thing as well. It wasn't on the MLS recently. I don't think it ever was. This is an auction property we bought.
Is that it?
Nope. It's a light yellowy tan color. With a two-car garage, it's got a burgundy colored front door.
Got it.
Maybe just go on Zillow, because they may have the street view there, perhaps.
Any contractors have a estimate on that one?
It's like handyman prices, right?
Oh no, I'll give you my number from my full experience.
What is it?
That should be somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000. All done.
Yeah.
$15,000 to $18,000.
I think it would be under 20 total.
Yeah. What do we go? 20. All right, does anybody out there know what the profit is? What's our total holding?
26,587.
Should be about 60 grand after closing costs on the back end.
537, and that includes interest?
Yep,
Okay, and the reno, we got 15 or 20,000?
yep, that includes your house.
What's our profit?
You said it was 80% LTV?
Yeah.
We've sold a lot of houses without listing them, which is our
So
plan on
the
this one. So quite possibly half the commission if there's a buyer agent ends up bringing the buyer, or possibly no commission. I've sold 60 pieces of real estate without an agent. Craigslist, marketplace, and signs, open houses.
If I did this right, 145 and change. If it sells at 380, did I do that wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this again.
You get the sales price right?
380?
380.
It's an easy deal, right? It's a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
it's a feels like a safe one.
So if you didn't even need to do the math to know it's a deal, then it's a deal. Why don't we look at a buy and hold? I haven't been in the market for any buildings recently, but this building, 183 Cartier Street's been up for a while, has come off, has come back on. It's in Manchester, where I know a bunch of you have buildings. We could look at this one. I haven't looked at it yet. I have a property right in here. It's 183 Cartier Street. Has anybody looked at this one yet?
Yes.
None of you have looked at a 3-unit in Manchester? Okay. All right. Brad's looked at it, okay. So right now, it looks like it is a 9-bed, 3-bath. All right, it's a 9-bed, 3-bath, 5-car garage. We got a first floor 3-bed, we have a second floor 4-bed, and a third floor 2-bed. Tenants, they own gas, utilities, 5 garages are vacant, 3 blocks within CMC. And we can go through some pictures just to see whether it's horrible or it's okay. That's nice. That's pleasant. They're vacant, but that's pleasant. Okay.
So that's funny, because that's new, because that wasn't on there when I looked at.
All right, so the insides look decent for Manchester. It's this is your typical Manchester cooktop in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
That's awesome.
Feng shui.
It's not even plugged in.
Yeah, and then we have skiing. Yeah, this is your typical Manchester. So I'm familiar with the rents in Manchester for this type of unit.
What was the bedroom count again?
9 beds.
342.
342. So it's 9 beds asking 679.
You asked me 2,500 for 4 bed right now? 2,400?
So this one is 679. Does anybody know what insurance costs on a 3-unit in Manchester? Does anybody have any losses in Manchester and they know what their insurance is?
Yes, hold on.
Does anybody actually have any Manchester units
5,000 per year for insurance.
for 3 units?
That's way too much.
That's high for me, but
I'm gonna go 2,200.
I have an insurance agent.
All right,
to
all
talk
right.
to. I'm about 3,000.
I don't wanna call him out. I got a good guy in the room. He doesn't want to be highlighted, I don't think, but I'm gonna go 2,200.
Wait, you have a guy in the room that does insurance for 2,200?
I have a guy in the room. We'll just leave it at that. Unless he wants me to highlight him, I'm not gonna.
All right, so if somebody's here and has that 2,200 rig and they want more business, let us know.
Raise your hand right now if you want it.
Yeah, you want more business, yeah, and, so I
he
think
honored
3,000. Okay, so what do you think current rate is for that building?
I'd say probably about like 25 to 3.
Okay.
3,000, somewhere in there.
So we'll go 2,750, and you are an insurance agent?
Yep.
Okay, so an insurance agent is saying on that building it's 2,750. Taxes.
When I calculated this, it was $565 a month, but that was probably before the new tax year. So it was 6780 when I calculated it.
Annual tax, 7,037. So we have our taxes and insurance. For a 3-unit in Manchester, if anybody here actually has a unit, a building in Manchester, what are you paying for expenses if the tenants are paying their own heat? So we're talking water, common electric. What are people paying for water on a 3-unit?
Per month?
Per month.
Per quarter.
It's about 100 per month, per unit per month.
About 100, 110
Yeah,
So it's about-
per unit.
per unit per month.
I don't know, 110 per unit per month, right?
Actually, per unit,
Per,
that's a little
no,
high.
no, it's 110 for a 3-unit
Hmm.
per month.
Yes, for the entire
Okay.
building.
For entire building.
Yeah.
I pay like $30 to $40 a unit per month.
Yeah.
So you're paying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're doing $110 a month in water, and like $50 for common electric, $40, $50.
But for water, so Manchester has water and sewer together. I think it's. Yeah, okay, I guess that's not too far off. I think I'm paying like 125 or something. But
Alright, so do we have a total for taxes and insurance per month?
this building has its own meters though, right?
Yep.
So I have my notes.
What do we have for taxes and insurance per month?
Hold on.
How many people would buy this building at $679? Is there, just throw it out there, is there anybody here that would buy this building for a different price? What's your price?
Probably like 540?
540. Okay, let's see.
By the way, to answer your question, can round up 817 is the per month.
Okay. And then we're at 110 for water plus 40, so 150. And we want to toss in snow removal, landscaping. What do you think we should add? 120? So we're at 270. Any other expenses that you think we should add in? Landscaping, snow removal, electric,
I mean, some people,
water, sewer.
R&M.
yeah, some people put aside some for repairs and maintenance.
Yep.
I have a different view on that, and I think you have the same view, right?
Yeah, we can take percentage of rent if we want to do that. The property management plan, that is. We
What
can-
about capital replacement?
We can, what would you set aside? Okay, some people take a percentage of rent, so you take like 5% of rent, they set that aside for capital improvements, for repairs, so we can do that.
What is your process?
I don't factor that in, I just want to grow as fast as possible, and then if I buy 2 or 3 or 4 more buildings, that gross income just takes care of all that capital.
Can I just,
capital
can I just add one thing to that? I don't need a microphone, I'm loud. So when you're first starting out, it's really important to calculate that because you don't have as big of a reserve. And that's another thing that's really important is you gotta build up a reserve, like probably 3 to 6 months, as soon as you possibly can. But when you're starting out, it is important to calculate repairs, maintenance, CapEx, expenditures, etc. But once you get to a certain amount of units, you're always gonna have a certain amount of money coming in where you're gonna have reserves. So it's easier to not pay attention to that once you get to a certain scale. So at the beginning though, it's very important to put that aside. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I'm gonna reiterate. Don't do it like I just said to do it.
Oh, no, you guys mentioned that you guys had, that you guys have a different opinion on it, I just was wondering what your opinion was.
He's right, so in the beginning, if you're buying your first property, you better have some in reserves if something goes wrong. But say, you bring in a total of $4,000 a month in rent, in gross rent, and you have a problem, and it's a $5,000 problem, then it's a problem that month. If you have 5 or 6 buildings, and you have $30,000 or $40,000 of gross income coming in, and you have a $5,000 problem, you can easily, if it's all depending on the org structure, you can easily pull money and go take care of that problem. So when you're bigger, you can tend to be able to put less in capital reserves, unless you have every building completely in separate entities and you can't commingle stuff. But if you can commingle and you have more gross income, you're less worried about keeping a lot of capital reserves. That's just my opinion.
No, definitely, yep. That makes sense.
Are we gonna account for vacancy here?
Let's not do that yet, right? So, do you want, so for a buy hold, lenders out there, what's the rate that we're getting today? Eileen? 6.9 at a 25.
20-year, for 5 and price of rate 60 months.
Wait, this is residential.
So what's the LTV on that loan?
75%.
All right, so it's 25% down, 6.95 rate, and then a 30-year amortization. 20-year amortization.
But that's not what someone's probably gonna get from the building.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Okay,
So if they go to Eileen, they'll get that.
okay.
What's, so this place has a 3-bed, 4-bed, and a 2-bed. What's the rent on a 3-bed in Manchester right now?
Stabilized or non-stabilized?
Stabilized rent. We'll pick it up, so we're gonna underwrite this as if the building is stabilized 3 months down the road.
I got 2,200 on 3.
I was about to say 22. That's-
2,200 for a 3-bed. What are people getting for a 4-bed?
I'm getting 2650.
2,650 on a 4-bed.
Not in that neighborhood. That's a shitty neighborhood.
Is that bad?
24 maybe?
I was gonna go with 24.
It's a good neighborhood.
Yeah, that
I see it.
building, that building, that's part of your building.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just say it's 2,400 for a 4-bed, and then for a 2-bed, they currently have theirs at 940, I read, so a 2-bed there,
1650, 17.
1,650.
That's low.
That's what I
If you're
think.
renovating, I think that's low.
Laurel Street.
She's
16.
paying 2,000 for her 2-bedroom.
I was gonna go 1,750 to 1,800 probably.
Alright, so you wanna go 1750 for a 2-bed? And then,
Shocking.
does anybody here rent garage space? So those look like tiny garage spaces, but if anybody rents garage space, what would you rent those garage spaces out for?
200 per month
Per,
No
per
way.
per stall. No.
I don't have electricity. I'm gonna go 100 because they're.
Okay.
cracked. And the roof is caving in, by the way, in case anyone's curious about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to shut you down.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
I'm not renting it.
They're double barn doors per space. So how much per garage space?
Let's do 100. Yeah.
So $500 total for renting the garage.
Yes.
Puts us at 68.
All right, so our total rent for this building is $68.50. That actually makes the 10% rule.
The what?
The 10% rule. It used to be 20.
Oh.
So actually, if we can get this building to $68.50, it meets the 10% rule at their asking price at $680. You know what our mortgage is on this? Take out the
Yep.
tax and insurance and the mortgage.
Yep, mortgage is $39.18 without taxes and insurance. I have it all here. I can tell you the total expenses are $53.46.
What do you have for expenses we're off?
$230 a month in insurance. Hold on, let me go back to
I don't
that.
know. We separate tax and insurance and what expenses are.
Hold on. Let me go down to it. $230 a month in insurance, $586 a month in taxes, 5% for repairs and maintenance, 0 vacancy, no management fee, $150 for water and sewer, $120 for snow removal and landscaping. What's that? Yeah, wait, 1,200? No, 120 a month, isn't that what we said?
Yeah, what's your total for tax insurance monthly? What's your total expense for the month?
Total expenses, I have at $53.46.
All right, so what's our cash flow?
With that loan product, 5.3%, $1,503, $1,503 a month in cash flow.
All right, so if you bought this building at $680 and you stabilize it, you pay $1,500 a month. Who would buy it? What price you said? $540?
Yeah, 540.
That's pretty far off.
Shoot some moon, Bob.
I agree. What's our cash return?
Hold on, I gotta adjust the closing costs down. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about estimated closing costs, but I estimated it at 3%. If anyone else disagrees with that, I can change it. Anybody?
That's good.
Oh, you know what? We didn't put in rental costs. I had rental costs, that's the reason. Hold on. Back up. Without renovating anything, so this is gonna be different, I screwed this up. We take out the renovation. Okay, if you don't renovate anything, it's actually $2,305 and your cash return is 18.3%, so it's pretty good. I had previously run this building with a very large renovation budget, and I forgot to take that out, so that's my fault, sorry.
All right, so if we did the math right, which maybe we didn't, but if.
I think it's right now. It's
So
right
if we
now.
do nothing to the building, we buy it, we stabilize it, this building produces $2,300 a month, which is actually pretty decent. Who would buy this building if these numbers are correct? And we are at an 18% cash on cash return. It is available right now on MLS, by the way. I'm not into this building. Colin can provide more color. This is assuming it needs nothing. You're getting an 18% return, $2,300 a month.
You're about $150,000 off the rental budget. As is the case with a lot of these buildings, the listing only has the pictures that don't make it look like a shithole. So, the first floor unit, all the windows are broken. So the elements are just, for the last 3 years, have been sweeping through the first floor. There is a lot wrong with this building. When I was there, I feel terrible. I'm sure the situation resolved itself now, but there was a terminal cancer patient living in the 2-bedroom. And let's just say we couldn't go in there because it smelled so bad that we were almost vomiting at the door. We just couldn't. He was not able to take care of himself, and he had no one else to take care of him. He was very sad. And at any rate, I estimated the rental cost to be right around 150K at the time. And that was probably 18 months ago when I looked at it, I think. So, yeah, when you factor that in, that's why I was getting such a low number, because I forgot to take that out of my spreadsheet, so my bad.
I have a question. So,
Sure.
what do you look for, like, what's the minimum cash on cash return for you to be interested in? I mean, obviously the higher the better, but like, what's just even interest?
So this is where you're gonna separate investors, because everyone's got their own version of what's acceptable in terms of risk, or what's acceptable in terms of return. My personal opinion, which is going to differ from Dee's and probably most of the people in here, I have an investment background, you know, in the stock market and bond markets. So my threshold, just from a return perspective, is if I can't beat the long-term average of the S&P 500 and add at least 3% premium on top of that, I'm not interested in the building. So if I can't make a minimum of 15 to 16%, I might as well just invest in an S&P 500 ETF, because then I don't have to do any work. And I make immediate profit, I don't have to stabilize or anything. So that's one of the metrics that I look at, but that is not how a lot of other people look at that. There's a lot more to what I look at beyond that, but that's sort of my, I guess, my basement measuring stick, if you will. If I didn't have to put any renovations in, like, yeah, 18.3%, I would. But having seen the building, I know that's not the case, so that's why I did make an offer on this particular one. But that said, there is a right price for every building, no matter how crappy it is, no matter how bad the neighborhood is. I just think this isn't it for me. But for someone who's, some people are okay getting an 8% return or a 6% return on their money, because there are other ways you're making money in real estate besides just the cash flow. There's the appreciation, there's the tax benefits, there's buying down the debt obligation to get more equity. There's multiple ways. So you have to decide what is the most important way for you to make money. And if you have anything to add?
Brad has something to add.
And if this property is for you, I can schedule a showing.
Thank you, Brad.
I apologize if I missed you answering this question earlier. Were there any additional value plays, like in terms of, could it be condos? Could you add on to it anyway? Could you add storage?
Yep, so that's another aspect, like, there's a 5-bay garage, there's always the opportunity, when I look at Manchester properties of adding bedrooms if I can, it's already a 3, 4, and a 2. 2 being the top floor, so usually hard to get a 3rd bedroom, but potentially you can get a 3rd bedroom in there. So when you go, like, what I do is I do my initial underwriting like this, I go see the property and see how bad it is. And then as I walk it, I see, okay, is there opportunity for any other value add? Then factor that in. If I put 20 grand to add a bedroom, but then I can get $300 more in rent, what do these numbers look like? My threshold is about 20% cash on cash return, so I really won't touch a building unless it hits that.
Does this one have laundry in the basement?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I've seen so many buildings since then, I don't know. The listing might say, but I
It's probably a typical Manchester laundry in the basement situation, like a horrible dank basement.
I saw 2 of the 3 apartments, and the 2 that I could see, they were spacious apartments. So if you're willing to spend them, if it's not in-unit laundry and you want to do that, there's probably a way to do it. As long as you are okay spending the money to possibly route plumbing and whatnot. But I'll look at the listing while you guys are talking and see if it says it on there, because I just can't remember.
Does anybody else have questions on this deal, or just, how do you run a deal, or what are your thresholds on deals?
Is medium-term rentals on this one or no?
So it's another avenue. You can Airbnb stuff, you can midterm rent it. It is by CMC, so you can try some travel nursing, right? But generally to do that, your units have to look nice. They usually have to have laundry in them, you have to have parking. You probably can't have graffiti on the building, right?
Debatable.
So there are other options. So you can. So when I underwrite this, and I don't play the short term or midterm, but I have considered it. I always underwrite it as a long term first, because if laws are passed where you can't Airbnb or for whatever reason you can't get your midterm rentals, you need to fall back on your long term rents. So I still go for my long term rents as underwriting, and then if I can do a short term and try to boost up the gross income, I'll do that, but I don't underwrite it for an Airbnb explicitly, because if I can't do that, I know I'm in trouble.
Can I add something real quick? So, as far as I can tell from the listing, it does not have laundry in the building. One thing, I know I do this, and I think Dee, I might even got this from you, Dee. When I run my scenarios, I did get this from you, so I'm gonna steal your idea, but give you credit. So Dee and myself run different scenarios. So like, what's the worst case scenario? What's the midterm scenario? And what's the best case scenario? Everything goes perfectly. So that way you have a good range of what's possible. So you're not going to be surprised by any of those outcomes, you know, unless your worst case scenario actually isn't the worst case, which is always possible. But it's a helpful exercise to do that, and I'll just say this for folks that are newer at this. One thing that I did when I was unsure of running these types of buildings is I went and I looked on Redfin and Zillow at all the sales for the last 6 to 12 months, and I ran my numbers before looking at what they actually sold for to see if my numbers would work. It's a good exercise because you can build some confidence there. And coming to meetings like this, talking to other investors who have already done it, they can analyze the deal for you to see, you know, whether they think it's a good deal. That's what gives you the confidence to pull the trigger. So if you're new, I encourage you to keep coming to these things and keep talking to investors, because I had about 6 months where I made a ton of offers and I was doing it wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. This is during the pandemic, and once I started coming to the meetings, that's when I actually started to buy buildings. It just clicked when you start talking to people.
I have a question for you guys. So I'm more on the flip and wholesaling side of things, and typically when I'm running my comps and when I'm looking at rehab budgets, I am in the bottom third of what my comps come in at. So for you guys, it'd be the bottom third of what rents could be, I would assume. And then I usually leave about 20% of margin on my rehab budget for overages and missed items. Is that something that you do when you look at buying homes?
I'm always over budget for renovations. Significantly.
You always go over?
Yeah.
You need to budget better.
I add 15% just to be safe.
Yeah, I add 15 to 20%.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I'm just still over budget. And then I'm not great as a GC, so I just don't do as well, and I should probably hand that off to somebody else. But I'm going to do that for my next building. And for rents, what I do is I look at fair market rents, which is published. I look at Section 8 payment standards. If you look up Section 8 payment standard, it's published quarterly. You can find out for that specific city what Section 8 would pay for a 3-bed, 4-bed, 2-bed, and you can use those numbers. So if you always fall back on Section 8, you know what they would pay for that unit, so you can be pretty solid on what that price would be. And I use that as a baseline for my rents.
That raises another question. Do you guys have any Section 8 or voucher tenants in your current rentals?
I do. I have a few.
I do. I usually try to keep about a third of my tenants as voucher holders, because then if something catastrophic happens, at least I know I can meet my debt obligations on all the mortgages. That's why I picked that threshold.
All right, why don't we stop with the underwriting, because it's like super dry. Does anybody have any other questions? And if you have any other buildings or deals that you want to analyze, you can come up and we just do that with you. We like to do it, and it's fun for us.
What's the name of that, Section 8 what?
Look up Section 8 payment standard. Right, and you'll find a PDF that's downloadable. Just look on the upper right-hand corner, and it'll say the date, the effective date. So you should see, right now, I don't know if March has come out yet, but you should see January 2025, Section 8 payment standard. And then it has a list of every single town in New Hampshire, and then it starts from the studio up to a 5-bedroom, I don't think that's 6, and it literally tells you the amount that Section 8 would pay. But that price also includes utilities. So you might have to subtract if the tenant's paying some utilities. And they just know that in some towns like Manchester, Section 8 will pay like 15% above market. So you have to know those towns. If they pay 15% above market, you might have to decrease your rents a little bit if you're doing private pay.
So if you want to look at it, I would just Google New Hampshire HUD, HUD, fair market rent, and it should take you straight to the website that you need. And it has the last 5 years of rents. You can actually see the trajectory and how it's gone up. It's actually not a bad website if you take the time to read through it.
Unless anybody has any other deals that they want to bring up, I think we're going to call it for tonight. It's super dry.
Does anyone want to see another deal?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah? I've got one for you guys if you want to do a flip real quick. I'm a flipper, so deal with it.
I never do that. I suck at them, right?
Dave, if you want to pull up the address, be careful on Zillow. There's two. It's 304 Kearsarge Valley Road in Wilmot. It is not the log cabin. It's the split little ranch.
304.
Yep. Kearsarge Valley.
This is off market, right?
Yes. Yep, that one right there.
3 bed?
Yep.
It just looks like that. Is there a better picture somewhere you think?
You can almost see it from the street view, but actually, I think Zillow has maps wrong.
That's it. It's a little square.
That's actually not the house. So this property is kind of weird. It's right on. If you look at the street view, I think you can see it right here. If you scroll down, it's this one right here, and the trees back there. All right, so there it is. So this is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. So anyone that flips, are you guys all familiar with the term ARV, after repair value? The ARV on this property, I underwrote this thing at $515,000. That's where my ARV was. Purchase price on this was $290, plus I advanced $6,000 on top of the purchase price, so all in it's about $296.
How big's the lot?
8 acres with a private lake. Call it a pond. I don't think it meets the sunshine thresholds. I don't know the difference, but someone does. Does anyone know the difference between a lake and a pond? Offhand?
It has to do with the inlet and the outlet. Lakes have inlet and an outlet, ponds only are spring fed.
There's water, let's put it that way. There's a big ass puddle.
No one wants to live in a pond, that's the difference.
All right, so sales price, $515, purchase price, $296. This deal, there's some great lenders in this room. I got this for 0% interest. I have this totally financed, $0 out of pocket, 0% interest. What I did was gave up equity in the deal. So I have a private financier that is funding all of the acquisition, all of the renovations, and I gave up 65% of the equity in the deal.
What?
65. So all I have in this deal right now is my reputation and my sweat equity. So I'm putting $0 in, and I am profiting 35% of the profits.
What did it need? Don't tell us what your projected rent cost. What did it need?
So, truthfully, I do have some pictures I should have given to you, but it doesn't need a lot. It needs a good chunk out. There's a lot of stuff in there. I wouldn't call it a hoarder situation, but it's pushing it. So, good junk removal, minor siding replacement. It's clapboards, so there's probably about 15 to 20 boards that need replacement. Exterior painting, interior painting, painting the cabinets, 2 bathroom vanities, some downlighting in some of the common areas, so a little bit of electrical work. And then this is a split level ranch, so the second story deck on the back of the house, whoever built that thing should be, dragged out of town on a horse and carriage. But that needs to be replaced as well. And pretty sure that's everything I had on there. So exterior, interior painting, it's like a 15 by 15, no, it's a 10 by 15 deck, junk removal, and some cosmetic and electrical. The 6 items I had.
For the people that have heard price on that, shout out what you think.
What do we hear over here?
I think 70K-ish
70.
Am I way under?
with dumpster.
I'm at 55, 60, but
I hear 55, 40.
I'm not great at estimating this.
So I underwrote the total renovation cost, and I also come from a background in custom construction in this area. It's going to be about $83,000, and that's including a 21% overage. It's like 21.8% overage. So there's close to, I believe it's 18.5 overages on that budget.
We all suck at prices, right? That's good.
And so you have no holding costs other than taxes and insurance.
Correct.
Do you know what that is?
Insurance is about $100 a month. Taxes, I want to say it was just under $55 a year. Taxes are really high in this area, by the way.
How many months is it gonna take to rent out?
It should be in and out within 90 days.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. I didn't spend $1 on it.
Could you take this flip and turn it into a verb?
I don't want them.
Maybe we should.
I have a wedding to pay for,
Does
dude.
everyone actually?
Is there somebody here who does not know what a burr is?
Don't be shy, I know there's somebody.
We can go over that, we've gone over it a million times, we can do it again.
Tim, I was talking to Scott from Scott's Yards Work, who's on the main drag through Wilmot the other day, and he said that Wilmot is becoming the new London.
Yeah, so everyone that can't afford New London, and just for reference, this is up in the Lake Sunapee region. This is where I used to build houses. The median house price in New London is about $585. It's one of the most affluent towns in New Hampshire. There's just way too much money. It's like 65% retired. Everyone that's priced out of New London goes to Wilmot. There's one house for sale in Wilmot right now, and it's priced at $799. And land value up there, just for anyone that's looking for a great opportunity, it's a great place to be. An undeveloped acre is about like 40 grand. So,
Do you know what you end up with profit, assuming everything goes to plan?
yeah, so I have my numbers on this because with like
Honestly, just share them instead of having us calculate it.
So usually when I'm looking at flips, these are the 3 things. That's your all-in cost. So you're sitting at about $300,000 between holding and purchase price, 83. So you're going to be, and I use rough numbers. Rough numbers are good enough. You're going to be all in at 385. I'm looking at about $140,000 of profit in there after backing closing costs. It's between 140 and 160 depending on the back end sales price. So
And you're keeping 35% of that.
I'm keeping 35% of that. So I'm anticipating between 40 and 60 depending on how it goes.
I have a question. Can you run those numbers as if you've done a loan? See what your profit had been if you had kept the whole equity?
The answer is less. I hate interest.
Wait, you're saying if he had run it, if he was just doing this by himself?
Yeah, right.
If he had the 20% down.
Yeah, if you have the 20% down, you know.
And you said you do about 10% interest with a 1.5? Is a 1.5 at the purchase or at purchase? So it'd be 1.5% on 296, so my purchase price would go up a little bit, plus 10% carrying cost for 3 months. So we paid about $3,000 a month.
Well, yeah, so point being though, while the total profit is more, you still get more in your pocket at the end of the day.
Absolutely, she's right on that.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, so if I had the 20% put down, I would have made a boatload more money on my own. The real deal of this is I don't have a dollar into the thing. So I've got zero financial risk on this, and hopefully it's a good deal. So.
Do we want to stop?
It's 8 p.m.
Any more questions? I mean, if we don't have any questions for these guys, I do have one more quick thing. So next month I talked about, we're gonna have a speaker coming in, that's a 2-part event.